Excellencies, distinguished guests, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to our public seminar titled Beyond Commitments, Delivering the Next Phase of Indonesia-Korea Relations After the 2026 Prabowo-Lee Summit. My name is Peter Pandi, and it is my honor to be your host for today's event. This event is organized by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Indonesia, in collaboration with the Embassy of the Republic of Korea in Jakarta. The discussion will assess the key outcomes of the Prabowo-Lee Summit in April 2026, identify major challenges in implementing bilateral cooperation, explore strategic policy options, and generate practical recommendations. Before we start our agenda for today, please allow me to warmly greet our distinguished guests. May I please welcome His Excellency Yoon Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Indonesia. Welcome, Your Excellency. Mr. Arifianto Sofiyanto, Director of East Asian Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. Welcome, Pak. I would also like to warmly welcome our leadership from CSIS, Bapak Yusuf Wanandi, co-founder of CSIS. Ibu Clara Juwono, also co-founder of CSIS. Welcome, Ibu. Dr. Rizal Sukma, Senior Fellow at CSIS. And Dr. Vidhyandika Jati Perkasa, Director of Research at CSIS Indonesia. Welcome. We would also like to welcome all ambassadors, diplomatic representatives, as well as officials and scholars who have taken their time to attend today's event. Thank you. And finally, I would also extend a warm welcome to our distinguished speakers and the rest of our participants who have graciously joined us today. Next, I would like to convey our deepest regret on behalf of CSIS that due to unforeseen circumstances, our executive director is unable to make it today to this event. He conveyed his sincere wishes for the best of the event. In his place, we have the honor to welcome another one of our distinguished leadership, Dr. Vidhyandika Jati Perkasa, Director of Research at CSIS Indonesia. Now, without further ado, to formally open the event today, may I please invite Dr. Vidya to the podium to deliver his welcoming remarks. The floor is yours.
His Excellencies Yoon, Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Indonesia, Mr. Arifianto Sofiyanto, Director of East Asian Affairs, Director General of Asia Pacific and African Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Parlindungan Purba, Deputy Head of Interinstitutional Relations, National Leadership Council, Indonesian Employers Association, or APINDO, Dr. YoungKyung, Research Professor, Graduate School of International Studies, Yonsei University, Dr. Lee Jaehyon, Principal Fellow, Asan Institute for Policy Studies, Republic of Korea, Bapak Yusuf Wanandi, Ibu Clara Juwono, co-founders of CSIS, and Bapak Rizal Sukma, Senior Fellow of CSIS Indonesia, distinguished guest speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to CSIS. It is my pleasure to open this joint seminar between CSIS Indonesia and the Embassy of the Republic of Korea in Jakarta. On behalf of CSIS Indonesia, I would like to extend our warm gratitude to Ambassador Yoon and the Embassy of the Republic of Korea for their trust and partnership in co-organizing this important event. Today's seminar, Beyond Commitments, Delivering the Next Phase of Indonesia-Korea Relations after the 2026 Prabowo-Lee Summit, comes at a particularly opportune moment. The bilateral summit on 1st of April 2026 between President Prabowo-Subianto and President Lee Jae-myung has renewed commitments and elevate our partnership to a special comprehensive strategic partnership. The question before us today is not whether the ambition is there. It clearly is. The question is how we translate that ambition into durable result. The Indonesia-Korea relationship has a strong foundation. Our two countries share long-standing economic ties, growing ambitions in defense industry cooperation, green investment, and digital transformation, and a deepening convergence of strategic interests in maritime security and Indo-Pacific stability. At the same time, we are at an inflection point. Ongoing shift in the global order, sharpening great power competition, supply chain restructuring, and geopolitical uncertainty in the Middle East demand that we move from strategic enthusiasm to stronger institutional anchoring and clearer implementation pathways. For both Indonesia and Korea, this partnership matters beyond bilateral trade and investment. Korea can be an essential partner for Indonesian industrial ambition, including in advanced manufacturing, the defense sector, and the green economy. And Indonesia, as the largest economy in Southeast Asia, can offer Korea a credible and strategic partner in navigating the shifting dynamics of the Indo-Pacific. The potential is real, but so are the gaps in implementation. That is why, precisely why events like this one matter. We need frank conversation among policymakers, researchers, and business representatives about what works, what doesn't, and what concrete steps are needed to take the relationship to its next level. I would like to thank all our distinguished speakers and participants for joining us today. I hope the discussion today will generate not only fresh insight, but also practical recommendation that both governments and stakeholders can act upon to deliver a stronger, more resilient, and forward-looking Indonesia-Korea partnership. Thank you very much, and I wish everyone a productive and engaging day ahead.
Thank you for your remarks, Dr. Vidya. Next, may I please invite His Excellency Yoon, Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Indonesia, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Dr. Vidhyandika, Director of Research of CSIS Indonesia, and Mr. Arifianto Sofiyanto, Director of East Asian Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, distinguished panelists, colleagues, and friends. Selamat pagi, good morning. Before going further, I'm honored to see attendance of Pak Yusuf Wamandi and Ibu Clara Jowando, co-founders of CSIS. It's my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to today's seminar. I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to CSIS Indonesia for organizing this timely event. We are gathered here at a momentous juncture. Just last month, His Excellency President Prabowo made a historic state visit to the Republic of Korea. This visit was not a routine ceremonial exchange between leaders. It marked the dawn of a new era, the elevation of our ties to a special, comprehensive strategic partnership. Today, let us reflect on where we are and what we have achieved and where we must go together. The story of Korea and Indonesia is one of the enduring friendships. Over the decades, our relationship has experienced its fair share of ups and downs. We have navigated the shifting political landscapes and economic cycles. Yet, through every challenge, our partnership has never weakened. It has only grown more resilient. We have consistently found ways to reinforce our bonds. Today, Indonesia remains Korea's only special comprehensive strategic partner in the world. This status is the testament of deep and unbreakable trust that transcend temporary fluctuations. Distinguished guests, we meet today at a time of profound global anxiety. We are witnessing rising geopolitical tensions and fragmenting international order, which was eloquently expressed by the previous speaker. Economic nationalism and restructuring of global supply chains are reshaping the world. In this fractured landscape, cooperation between Korea and Indonesia is no longer just an option. It is absolute necessity. As close neighbors, leading middle powers, we share a vital interest in regional stability, rules-based international order, and open markets. By standing together, we can protect our strategic autonomy. The April summit between President Prabowo and President Lee Jae-myung was a watershed moment. To understand its significance, we must look back nearly 2 decades ago, during the administrations of President Lee Myung-bak and President Bambang Yudhoyono. The bedrock of our modern relationship was formed. The April summit represents the most significant leap forward since that foundational era. It is a powerful symbol of our relationship taking a great flight into the future. This summit yields concrete, visionary outcomes that will define our future in the critical areas, including institutionalizing dialogue, next-generation economic and technological cooperation, and strategic defense cooperation, etc. Distinguished guests, no treaty or economic contract can sustain a relationship on its own. The true engine of our partnership is our people. To ensure the sustainable development of our ties, we must dramatically expand human exchanges. We need more Indonesian students studying in Seoul and more Korean engineers working in Jakarta. We must foster deeper connections between our youth, scholars, artists, and entrepreneurs. By investing in people, we invest in the next 50 years of our friendships. The commitment made in April are ambitious. But as the old proverb goes, words do not make a tree, action does. The true test of a new partnership lies in the concrete implementations. The political will has been firmly established at the highest level. Now it's up to policymakers, business leaders, and thinkers in this room to turn this vision into realities. For a long time, we have said that economic and social structures of Korea and Indonesia are complementary and mutually reinforcing. This is true. However, from Korea's perspective, Indonesia still ranks fourth among ASEAN nations across the various indicators, such as trade, investment, and people-to-people exchange. The reality of our bilateral relationship is neither natural nor acceptable. Let's reshape these realities. Distinguished guests, this is precisely why today's seminar is so crucial. We need a clear, objective assessment of where our relationship stands today. More importantly, we need practical and actionable ideas on how to navigate the road ahead. I look forward to insight that will emerge from today's discussions. I'm confident that CSIS, as premier global think tank, will provide intellectual canvas we need for this journey. Korea and Indonesia have proven that they are ideal partners. Let us now prove that we can be an architect of safer, more prosperous, and technological advanced future. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your warm remarks. Next, may I please invite Mr. Arifianto Sofiyanto, Director of East Asian Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Pak, the floor is yours.
Excellency Ambassador Yoon Gu, Ambassador to the Republic of Korea to Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Yusuf Manandi, Ibu Clara, Pak Dubes Rizal Sukma, Pak Vidya, distinguished speakers and panelists, Excellencies, representative of the diplomatic corps, government officials, scholars, business representatives, students, and ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us. Annyeonghaseyo. First of all, allow me to express my sincere appreciations to the Korean Embassy and the CSIS in Jakarta for organizing this timely and important event. It is an honor for me to join you today in this forum, which brings together government officials, experts, business communities, scholars, and students to discuss the future direction of Indonesia-Korea relations following the bilateral summit between President Prabowo-Subianto and President Lee Jae-myung on April 1st, 2026. The theme of today's seminar, Beyond Commitment, Delivering the Next Phase of Indonesia-Korea Relations, after the 2026 Prabowo-Lee summit is highly relevant. It reflects the key questions that we must address together: how to translate the commitments made at the highest political level into concrete cooperations, tangible projects, and real benefits for the peoples of both countries. Since establishing diplomatic relations in 1973 and following the strategic partnership in 2006 and the spatial strategic partnership in 2017, Indonesia and the Republic of Korea have developed a strong and dynamic partnership spanning trade, investment, strategic industries, technology, energy, defense, and people-to-people exchanges. Amid rapidly evolving global and regional dynamics, intensifying geopolitical competition, supply chain disruptions, energy security concerns, and technological transformation present both challenges and opportunities for the two countries. Building on decades of friendship and cooperations, and in response to evolving regional and global dynamics, the two leaders agreed to elevate bilateral ties to a spatial, comprehensive strategic partnership with a stronger focus on concrete and forward-looking cooperation. The first April summit provided important momentum for elevating the partnership and reaffirmed both countries' commitment to deepen cooperation in key sectors, including energy transition, critical minerals, digital technology, data centers, manufacturing, green transportations, and strategic industries. We also welcome and support the strong interest shown by the Korean businesses in Indonesia. The investment commitments and business agreements announced during the visit demonstrate the confidence of Korean partners in Indonesia's economic potential and long-term development priorities. However, as the title of today's seminar rightly suggests, commitment alone are not enough. The real task before us is delivery. We need to ensure that the outcomes of the summit are followed by clear implementation pathways, a stronger institutional coordination, and practical collaboration among all relevant stakeholders. This requires close cooperation between government agencies, private sector, think tanks, and civil society as well. It also requires an honest discussion on the challenges that may affect implementation, including regulatory issues, investment climate, industrial readiness, financing, and project execution. Beyond the economic agenda, Indonesia and Korea also have significant room to strengthen cooperation in strategic and security issues. Defense industry cooperation, maritime security, regional stability, and the broader Indo-Pacific agenda are becoming increasingly important pillars of our bilateral relations. As two democratic countries with strong regional engagement, Indonesia and Korea can work together to support peace, stability, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. Our partnership should contribute not only to the development of our countries, but also to the wider stability of the region. This is why today's seminar, again, is very important. It provides a valuable platform to assess the outcomes of the summit, identify key challenges in implementations, explore policy and business perspectives, and generate practical recommendations for the next phase of Indonesia-Korea cooperation. For the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, strengthening Indonesia's relations with the Republic of Korea will remain and continue to be our important priority. We stand ready to continue facilitating political communication, supporting interagency coordination, and encouraging concrete follow-up to the various areas of cooperation agreed by both sides. We also stand ready to support the implementations of the new bilateral architecture established following the state visit. This includes the Spatial Comprehensive Strategic Dialogue, as well as its supporting mechanism, such as the Strategic Economic Dialogue, the Strategic Maritime Dialogue, and the High-Level Energy Resources Security and Dialogue. That's why I'm very pleased to learn that the representative of Bakamla is also present here. This is very important because one of the key fields they would like to advance with Korea is maritime cooperation. So I'm very pleased that with the following after the visit of the president, our two countries agreed to further enhance our maritime cooperations. Those mechanisms I mentioned above are not intended to replace existing channels of cooperation, but rather to elevate and streamline and strengthen our bilateral engagement in line with the new status of Indonesia-Korea relations as special comprehensive strategic partnership. I hope today's discussion will be open, constructive, and forward-looking. I also hope that this seminar will produce fresh ideas and practical recommendations on how Indonesia and Korea can move from commitments to implementations and from implementation to tangible benefits for our peoples. With that, I wish all of you a productive discussion and a successful seminar. Thank you very much. Kamsahamnida.
Thank you very much, Pak Arifianto. Pak Arifianto, if I could please ask you to remain on stage for the group photo session. Ladies and gentlemen, to formally close this opening session, we will now proceed to the group photo session. May I please invite His Excellency Yonsei, Pak Arifianto is already on stage, Dr. Vidhyandika Jati Perkasa, Pak Yusuf Wanandi, Ibu Clara Juwono, Dr. Ko YoungKyung, Dr. Parlindungan Purba, Dr. Lee Jaehyon, Mr. Andrew Mantong, Dr. Lina Alexandra to come up to the stage for the group photo, as well as His Excellency Dr. Tien Samnang, Ambassador of Cambodia to Indonesia, and Lee Kang-hyun, Chairman of the Korean Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to come up to the stage for a group photo as well. Thank you very much once again. Moving on to our main session. Our main session today will be moderated by Dr. Lina Alexandra. Dr. Lina is the head of the International Relations Department at CSIS Indonesia. Please, Ibu Lina, if you can make your way to the stage. I would also like to invite our distinguished speakers to come up to the stage again. First, Dr. Ko YoungKyung, Research Professor at the Graduate School of International Studies at Yonsei University. Welcome. Dr. Parlindungan Purba, Deputy Head of Interinstitutional Relations at the National Leadership Council, the Indonesian Employers Association. Dr. Lee Jaehyon, Principal Fellow at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies of the Republic of Korea, and Mr. Andrew Wigunamantong, Senior Researcher at the Department of International Relations, CSIS. Now, without further ado, I would pass it over to Ibu Lina. Ibu, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Peter. And good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, once again, and welcome to the seminar, Beyond Commitments, Delivering the Next Phase of Indonesia-Korea Relations After the 2026 Prabowo-Lee Summit. And I think as has been mentioned a lot, that the bilateral summit on the 1st of April 2026 between President Prabowo Subianto and President Lee Jae-myung marks a timely opportunity to reset and reinvigorate one of the region's most strategically significant bilateral relationship at a moment of sharpening great power competition. Both leaders have agreed to expand the comprehensive partnership to a more strategic level, as we all know, to become a very rare spatial comprehensive strategic partnership, focusing on strengthening the economic, energy, and defense cooperation. And there are 10 memorandum of understanding signed between the two leaders in crucial sectors on economic and trade, on energy and transition, technology and EV, and also on defense and strategic sectors. So against this backdrop, this panel will scrutinize to see, as mentioned again by the ambassador earlier, about what has been achieved, where we are now, where is the state of our bilateral relations today, and what concrete actions can be done by both sides to realize or implement the commitments that have been made. And today we have 4 distinguished speakers with us. To discuss, we separate into 2 major parts, which is the economic and trade, and also on defense and strategic commitments that have been agreed by the 2 leaders. We have 4 distinguished speakers. The first is Dr. Ko YoungKyung, Research Professor on the Digital Trade from Graduate School of International Studies, Yonsei University, that will speak on the topic from spatial strategic to spatial comprehensive, anchoring Korea-Indonesia relations in the age of the supply chain geopolitics. And the second speaker, we have Dr. Parlindungan Purba, the Deputy Head of Interinstitutional Relations the National Leadership Council, from the Indonesian Employers Association, APINDO, Bapak, selamat datang. It will talk about delivering the economic agenda, investment climate, industrial priorities, and business realities in Korea-Indonesia relations. And the third, we have Dr. Lee Jaehyon, the Principal Fellow from Asan Institute for Policy Studies from Korea, to speak about the strategic trust in practice, defense industry cooperation, maritime security, and the Korea-Indonesia security agenda. And the fourth, not the least, of course, is our own researcher, senior researcher in CSIS, Mr. Andrew Wigunamanthong, who will speak about the strategic and security dimensions of the Indonesia-Korea partnership. So without further ado, I would like to invite the first speaker, Dr. Ko, to speak about 10 to 15 minutes, particularly to look at about what is new in the initiative, what is different about this special comprehensive strategic partnership this time, to really look at, and what concrete changes that actually exist. So please, Dr. Ko.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I really appreciate inviting me to here. So, today, I would like to talk about some anchoring Korea and Indonesia relations in the age of supply chain geopolitics. So my title shows is what I'm talking about, but let me start with one simple observation. Indonesia rich in natural resources, but everybody knows is the Korean doesn't have any oil and gas. But the Korea is become a world fifth largest oil refiner and the world's #1 shipbuilder. So, but this did not happen by accident. So thanks to due to the oil shock of 1970s, so Korea invested heavily in refinery, petrochemicals, shipbuilding, and strategic reserves of oil, and all the accumulation of technology and support of industrial policy, especially for the crisis. So we already played this kind of a game of oil crisis. So for years, many assumed that this industry is fade under the low-cost competition against the Chinese companies. But today, geopolitical shock again, there are once again rising this kind of a strategic value of refining, petrochemical, energy security, and the industrial resiliences. So there is a lesson in that the industrial leadership it's not determined by just a few economic factors. It is built through the long-term capability accumulation. That capability can spread across the industries and across the countries. So that's the perspective what I share today. Right. Okay, Korea and Indonesia entering the very significant moment now. So those two, the leaders met in a month ago. And because that time, we signed the 16th MOU on supply chains because the crisis doesn't stay in one region. It traveled through all the supply chain into energy, logistics, industrial cost across Asia. So, but two countries ride the same shock differently. So for Indonesia, and for Korea, so for Korea it's not only the risk because the refinery, petrochemical boom up and the AI boom is rifting the power and battery and material with them. Okay, Indonesia going the other way is toward the downstream and resource sovereignty. So Indonesia's direction under the President Prabowo is becoming clearer recently. The country no longer wants to remain the simply supply of raw materials. You already know what is the specific direction. Okay, so downstream is not only about export. It's about industrial capability and economic resilience and the long-term competitiveness. But industrial upgrading really happen in isolation. That's what I'm talking about. So no country build the full ecosystem entirely on its own. So the question that is not whether foreign firms take part, it is how they take part in, and whether they become embedded in local capability building and growth of ecosystem. So that's why is the Indonesian government given more room for better foreign companies to contribute to developing the ecosystem. So this data, look at the data, export data. Indonesia is still low material heavy, okay, but compared to other countries. So, but how we compared to others countries like China and Vietnam or Malaysia, how they shift faster than Indonesia, because of there is some contribution from foreign companies. So, okay. Now, the value, those kind of, look at the smile curve. So value is not spread entirely along the chain like a step up. It follows the smile curve, the two end high, R&D and design, and on others, and the brand and services on the other. The simple middle lower is at the lower point. So different industry sits at different points. So at the very bottom is a nickel ore. Indonesia tried to move left side or right side it. So battery value chain in the right side, it shows it's the same logic in one industry. Value rise by stage, from nickel ore to refining to cathode and copper foil and others. Okay, Indonesia anchors the upstream end, but Korean companies are strong in blue colors stage. Okay, so this is one chain with two-sided and different points. So it's not competition, it's a complementary positions. So the real question is how to connect them each other. Okay, so more of a high value and they take a route here, and we already have some track record in Indonesia, and it shows that works. Okay, here we have some track record already. Still established the case, like a POSCO, Caracao, and petrochemical just arrived is a Lotte Chemicals and the decasmetic, but the decasmetic cases are really harder lessons for Korea. The refining was captured earlier by others like Chinese companies. So Korean entrance came late, and then we lose some the great opportunity. So World Bank notes downstream did raise the process, the export, but technology transfer and job stayed limited. That's the World Bank pointed out. So the pattern is clear. Where the Korea co-build the full process, the value stays in Indonesia. Processing alone does not. That's the difference between participating in the chain and moving up. So now, why I included the example of HD Hyundai heavy industry. What began as a shipbuilding gradually grew into far broader industrial ecosystem. Today is HD Hyundai reached well beyond the ship into the engine, offshore plants, power system, and defense and maintenance service, and even nuclear-related sectors. So in other words, one industrial route produced many industrial branches. It just spilled over. And that's exactly where Indonesia fits. It's an archipelago. There is a lot of demand of shipbuilding and ships or ocean-related. So Indonesia is a maritime nation by nature, so already had HD Hyundai or Hana Ocean and then other Samsung heavy industry already pursuing the submarine and then Navy cooperation. But shipbuilding generated spillover across suppliers and engineering and the workforce development. Plant loop together, branch will follows, but none of this happened just overnight. I will show the history of HD Hyundai. When it started in the 1971 and 1972, there is no shipyard, there is no capital in Korea, no engineers, and no technology, nothing at all. But they got some off order from English company, then they got a capital from English bank, and then they started to construct the shipbuilding and shipyard together. There is no that kinds of chances. So, and then they also trained the workers together. Okay. And then over time, the Korea accumulated engineering capabilities and trained the workers. And then, but there were oil shocks in 1970s and the downturn of oil industry and moment when the many believed Korea could not survive against Japan and European companies at all. But Korea kept investing, keep upgrading, and keep upgrading the technology and keep building capability over decades. It becomes a #1 shipbuilder only 11 years later. Wow. So, then later, Korean firms developed their own marine engine. It's a Himsen engine. That is just a brand of an engine. Okay? So through the continuous R&D and cumulative know-how. So today, geopolitical shocks once again lifting demand of LNG carriers, shipping, and strategic maritime industries. So the lesson is simple. Industrial leadership is not built overnight. It's built over long-term policy support, technology development, workforce development, strategic persistence, capital injection. So this is the kind of a capability Korea can build with Indonesia. There is some other cases, not only shipbuilding, is a copper foil and battery and then refining the materials. So the next industrial links are highly mobile because some copper foil Korean companies, they are produced in Malaysia because of lower cost of electricity and then some benefits from the government. But the nickel and others all are here. Why they pick up the Malaysia, right? So it's highly mobile. Some major Korean copper foil investment, not only that. So point is this. Indonesia already hold critical resources. Yes, we know. Korea already hold many of the downstream capabilities. So real opportunity is to connect them more deeply, more connected, more embedded. Because policy design decides which link actually works efficiently. Let me close the 4 points. First, age of chip globalization, it's over. It's gone already. Supply chains are now shaped by geopolitics, energy security, and industrial resilience. Second, Indonesia downstream strategy is ultimately about capability accumulation, not simply export substitution. It cannot sustain so long. Many cases already proved. And the third, Korean experience matters not because Korea had the resources, but because it built globally competitive industries, refining, battery, shipbuilding, and all others, through long-term industrial policy, technological learning, and ecosystem development. And fourth, the next page of Korea-Indonesia relations should move beyond just transactional cooperation, not resource exchange for capital, not assembly production for market access, but co-building of a long-term industrial ecosystem. Because ultimately, the real task, the special comprehensive strategic partnership is whether both countries turn supply chain interdependence into shared industrial capability. That's why the new direction of President Prabowo's economic policy, it's understandable. But for the success, we need to develop more elaborated industrial policy, not isolated foreign firms, but how to co-build ecosystem together, and then how to co-build capability, industrial capability accumulation together. That's the key point of what I'm saying today. Okay, let me finish it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ko. I think very strong message and very important message that you have just shared with us, about that countries need to work together to develop the ecosystem. No country can develop it alone. And also thank you so much for sharing the very rich experience from Korea about how Korea actually built the critical industries from for a long time. It's not happened only overnight. So now I would like to invite the second speaker, Dr. Parlindungan Purba, to share with us, essentially still on the economic agenda, but from the Indonesian perspective about what is actually the gap, between the promises and realities. How do you see the barriers, in materializing the commitment, since we already have now the very spatial comprehensive strategic partnership, but I think the heavy part is really on the economic aspect, but what is the problem actually? Thank you.
Thank you, good morning. Annyeonghaseyo. Selamat pagi. His Excellency Ambassador Yonsei and Pak Yusuf and Pak Aditya, Pak Vidhyandika, Pak Rizal and all the speakers here. It's a very good honor for me to speak on behalf of you all, our friends from Korea and some diplomats here. So I would like to give some ideas raised on what I can see from the employer's perspective. And this paper is very short, but based on our short experience with our friends from Korea. I'm sorry, I'm replacing Pak Didit Ratam. Suppose he will be here, but 2 days ago he said sorry to you, so I'm the second driver. But it is a honor for me to give chance here. Thank you very much. Okay. So, what is very important here, and there are some custom behavior between Indonesia and Korea. What I like about Korea is they have a pali-pali system. Pali-pali system, it is said that we must work hard, must be fast. And I think Indonesia also is pali-pali. It means we can see from the vision of our Mr. Prabowo. He wants to develop Indonesia in a pali-pali way. So that's the same way. And I would like to say here that Indonesia-Korea, I'm especially from Medan, my hometown in Medan. Talking about Korea, it has been maybe 30 years ago, Korean company has built the best road in Medan. So talking about Korea, it is a very good position. And also if we talk to the people of Indonesia, they must say, talking about Korea, talking about K-pop, talking about K-culture, talking about K-food, and K-green economic, and all with K. So I would like to say that we have to make a Indonesia IK culture in Indonesia and Korea. Because Korea and Indonesia, I think they have the same, similar, and what is just now, this is a complementary. We are not competing each other. Okay. So I just try to make a mapping. Why the 2027 summit was strategically important? Yes, because we see that the global supply chain fragmentation and geopolitical rivalry are shaping Asia. Indonesia with 280 million and Korea around 57 million. And until now, it will be a very good potential. Why? Because Indonesia complementary strengths. I agree with you. We don't competition. So we have nickel, large market, 270 million people, young workforce. We have nearly 70 million. Must be utilized. And then strategic location, Indo-Pacific. For me, I'm in Medan. It is better for me to go to Singapore because I just flight 45 minutes. If I go to Jakarta, nearly 2 hours. It means how strategic the location of Indonesia. And if I go to, for example, to Korea, there every day from Medan, there are 3 flights. And same with Jakarta. So it means it can be nearer between Indonesia and Korea. That's by the location. But in the heart of Indonesia, we are very near with Korea. Every night if I meet all the, the governor or the official Indonesia, the wife like to see the film of Korea. Don't say how old they are. From the youngsters until the senior love Korea. And they love kimchi and anything. And now we are going also to introduce Indonesia food to Korea. That's very good. So Korea seeks diversification, resilient supply chains, and critical mineral access. Strategic complementary. Indonesia's scale and resources, Korea's technology and capital. So joint priority areas, that's the joint what I can see in 5 sectors: EV batteries and critical minerals, renewable energy, AI digital economic, logistics supply chain, and defense industry cooperation. I'm also opportunity, that time I attend the meeting at Seoul with Mr. Prabowo and Mr. Des last time, and I can see how the situation between the businessmen from Indonesia signed the MOU with the Korean company, and they are optimists. So it seems there is the new wave between Indonesia and Korea. So I appreciate CSIS to make the very good and fast discussion. So CSIS also pali-pali conference. Thank you very much, Pak Yusuf Nandi. You can catch what happened and what we have to do soon. And the second main result of the summit is upgrade. What I can see, it is a resource from our CSIS, upgrade to a special comprehensive strategic partnership. It means that we are not just a strategic partnership, but we are co-development our country. And the second, more than $10.2 billion in agreements and investment commitments. Priority sectors, EV batteries, nickel, renewables, AI, carbon capture, storage, logistics, and steel. I think this is very good because we are coming to green energy, industrialization, and expanded defense industrial cooperation, including KF20 and IF21 program. And the fifth is financial integration through local currency and QR payment initiative. We are very happy when we go there, we can use our QRIS. Good one. Now I come to priority sectors and industrial ecosystem map, Korea, Indonesia. Okay, we have EV battery. Indonesia strength nickel resources. Korea battery technology. Strategy opportunity is integrated EV supply chain. I think it has been done and it has been planned. We are waiting for the implementation. And I'm very sure that the government of Indonesia will support this. And I think from the government from Korea also support this. That is why it means it is the time that now we have to do the action, not just implementation, not just planning. And the second, renewable energy, solar, geothermal, potential, engineering, finance, and green. You understand, sometimes our Korean friends say, hey, Parlin, how we can come to get the business in the renewable energy? Now it is open, because for example, in the waste to energy, we have Danantara. For everything, it is open now. For example, we have a list of public-private partnership. We can come to the minister of Pak Rosan or anything, and they are very good officer now. Anytime we can come, and he will give us what is the information. And the saying about digital economy, large market, and Korea strength AI semiconductors. Yes, I know how our friends, this is based on my experience. I know Korean maybe have been 15 years ago. So how is their style? Sometimes, what I see, they are, okay, but there is something that we have to move more, not just company to company. We have to move people to people. G to G, okay, government to government, business to business, okay. But we need to push people to people. That is why we push, and we have done it, to make MOU between university in Korea and in all part of Indonesia. And I'm also, thank you, Excellency Yoon Sungguh. It was a very good opportunity. I want to introduce to you that I was just awarded by the ambassador as the honorary consul of Korea at Medan. So my accreditation will be in Sumatra Island. Thank you, Excellency. It means that it can push. This is what I talk, but I heard that we are the first in Indonesian since long time. So it means there's the good step ahead. Because, for example, if they have problem for example, in others, not Jakarta, sometimes needs time, geographically position. So now it is easy, and I see, not because of here is our ambassador, they are also Mr. Pali-Pali. So if there is something happen, not only about the citizen, the business, they help. So I see the government of Korea and government of Indonesia now is good, and they are making a step ahead to make the consulate honorary consul. I think it is good to help the people to people, the more important. Okay? And then basic goal, strategic goal of partnership, build integrated Indonesia-Korea industrial ecosystem. This is what we say just now. And then reduce supply chain vulnerability and the over-dependence on China. Now, this is good also. Make something challenging. And the third, accelerate Indonesia industrial upgrading and workforce development, strengthen geopolitical flexibility and meet global fragmentation, deepen long-term industrial and technology integration. We have 4 challenging. One, it was regulatory implementation complexity. Yes, we understand. Indonesia, sometimes we have, I'm happy that the Director General here and the government agency Indonesia here, I'm very sure that we are going to develop what is the business climate friendly for this, because it will create the job placement. And the second, overlapping regulation, licensing delays, OS variability, foreign firms require strong regulatory, yes. Execution capability, implementation. Key takeaway, complex regulation and decentralized process create delays. Successful implementation depends on execution and local independence. Yes, we understand. Local government also, sometimes, this is not problem. This is just miscommunication. We need to talk each other. So between the local government and Jakarta, the department, yes, there is bureaucratic, but the communication can help it. Yes. And then, challenging 2, workforce infrastructure and execution gaps. Okay, and the third, it is supply chains, ESG, and China competition. Yes, ESG, what is my knowledge about ESG, our Korean friend is very eager to talk about ESG. Sometimes they invite us to come to that. How is the position of ESG Indonesia until now? This is very important for us, for Indonesian, to prepare the situation circumstances of ESG Indonesia. I say, sometimes in Indonesia there are some fair about ESG. So we are coming 2 steps ahead now. Number 4 is decentralization and regional diversity. Yes, we understood that. And then number 5, it is how Indonesia-Korea CEPA helps address in challenging. What it can help and what I cannot help. So there are also some, we have to be open for this. And then, key success factor for the next phase, government, business, universities, human capital, bilateral institution. And strategic outlook, the summit a potential long-term. So this is the important thing, the summit marks a potential long-term Indonesian-Korea Industrial Alliance. Success depends on implementation, not only diplomatic announcements. And then Indonesian offers scale, resources, and industrial ambition. South Korea offers technology, manufacturing, system, and capital. IKCEPA provides the institutional infrastructure for deeper integration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Purba, for highlighting the importance to move beyond the G2G and B2B to people connectivity. And I think for highlighting the spirit that we should share together, not only Korea, I think for the Pali spirit, I think it's very important. And perhaps later on during the discussion, we can talk more about the challenges that you have just summarized there. Now we move to the third speaker, Dr. Lee Jaehyon, to speak to us about more on the strategic issues, which basically on the commitment for defense industry cooperation on maritime security, and also the larger Korea-Indonesia security agenda. And I think the gist of it is really the KF-21, the IFX program that has been renegotiated significantly. I think the audience here really very eager to hear about how do you see the limits and possibilities of defense industrial cooperation between Indonesia and Korea, as both would like to position themselves as the so-called middle powers. I think perhaps you can share with us also 10-15 minutes, and also on the larger issues, on the 2+2 mechanism, and also the maritime cooperation itself. Please, Dr. Lee.
Thank you so much. Lina, you expect too much from me. Thank you so much. I first have to say thank you to the Korean Embassy, as well as Ambassador Yoon and CSIS for having me here. It's always very good to be back in Jakarta to catch up with my friend Lina and Andrew. And also, it's been quite a number of years since I saw Pak Rijas Kumar. We used to meet in the CISCAM meetings before. It's great to see you again. It is always challenging to speak right after the economists, because they got better slides with the graph and colors and beautiful graphics. Well, we political scientists do not have that kind of ability to make your slide very beautiful. So I just put some words and sentences in my slide, and which is very much shorter than the economist. But anyway, the organizer gave me very specific questions, 3 questions. First, defense industry cooperation. Second, maritime security cooperation. And the third, institutional reform between Korea and Indonesia cooperation. I would like to answer these questions one by one. Let me first talk about just the general structure of my presentation. First, defense industry cooperation, including defense cooperation overall. And the second part is about maritime security, and third one is moving beyond what's stored in the future for Korea, Indonesia, bilateral cooperation in defense and strategic area. Basically, I'm looking at the current state of these 3 areas of cooperation, and then move on to the recommend future action agenda between these 2 countries. And then I have got just 15 minutes, so I can't show you everything in this presentation. I'm more than happy to answer your questions in the Q&A session following. Okay, let's move on to the defense industry cooperation. I'm not just talking about defense industry cooperation here, but the broader defense cooperation between Korea and Indonesia. As you know, the current status of defense industry cooperation, at the center of defense industry cooperation between Korea and Indonesia, there was KF-21 or IFX project between these 2 countries. I don't want to go in deep inside this project, but I'm more than happy just to say that in the last summit, 2 leaders sorted out everything, ironed out everything. There was readjustment, or if you like, fine-tuning regarding the financial contribution, technology transfer, and South Korea will provide a prototype of IFX and the 16 IFX airplanes to Indonesia. So what we have to think about here is how to move forward rather than looking back. That's the important part. And we got very important lesson out of this negotiation or deal or joint actions. If you look at Korea's defense industry cooperation, particularly with the United States, the partnership is asymmetric. The US provide technology and everything, and South Korea used to receive those technology from the US. It was very asymmetric. But the defense industry cooperation between Korea and Indonesia is more between equal partners, between middle powers. So it is very rare case and rare opportunity to build defense industry or defense cooperation between these equal partners. Of course, I can't say that there's a deep strategic trust between the two countries yet to build something jointly, but I believe this is the beginning, and we have a long way to go. We have to go through a lot of difficult negotiations, and we also need a lot of gardening. The reason why I use this word gardening is that we have to keep invest our interests. We have to keep taking care of these relations and cooperation. We have to invest continued effort to build this partnership. So that's why I use this word gardening. So in the long term, I believe this middle power or equal partners defense industry cooperation will be much healthier than the asymmetric partnership cooperation. So maybe the Korea-Indonesia defense industry cooperation started from the commercial interest, but I believe at the end it should build strategic trust between the two countries. And then I move on to the some weak point that South Korea's defense industry cooperation has, or defense industry cooperation has. I used to say defense cooperation trinity. First, we have handshaking in defense cooperation. Second, joint action aspect. And the third, sharing arms. Of course, I will show this a very simple table. Handshaking includes dialogues, treaties, agreements, education, high-level exchanges between these two countries. We don't have to invest a lot of strategic things in this handshaking. And then we have a joint action. It's largely about joint exercise between two countries or multilateral military exercise. Arms sharing, of course, is about defense industry cooperation and transferring defense industry technology. At the moment, South Korea is doing very well. South Korea and Indonesia are doing very well in handshaking. We have a lot of agreements and high-level talks and dialogues and blah, 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 including education, military education. And we also are doing very well in defense industry cooperation, arms sharing. We jointly built submarines, we are jointly building fighters, and also we exported a few ships to Indonesian Navy and blah, blah, blah. We are doing quite very well, and I believe the future is brighter between Korea and Indonesia when it comes to defense industry cooperation. But what is missing is this joint action part. If you look at all these joint military exercise, it's either multilateral or US initiated. There's no joint exercise that South Korea initiated or Indonesia initiated. So definitely we have to strengthen this joint action part to build better defense cooperation between Korea and Indonesia. And the other point is that I'm just wondering if South Korea's partners in Southeast Asia has enough capacity to conduct a joint exercise between Korea and Southeast Asian counterpart. You got a lot of offers from China, US, and also multilateral joint exercise. So the Indonesian or Southeast Asian navies, armies, and air force are quite busy to conduct all these exercises. If South Korea jump in, this is my concern, if the Southeast Asian counterpart has got enough capacity to carry out all these joint exercises. Anyway, the future direction of defense industry cooperation between Korea and Southeast Asia or Korea and Indonesia, we have to move beyond KF-21. There are a lot of opportunities for shipbuilding and air defense system. This is not just about simple fighter airplanes. There's a lot of areas that we can put our hands together. The second is developing regional MRO. South Korea already sold quite a number of KT-1 trainers, FA-15 fighters, and Navy ships to Southeast Asia. In a few years' time, all these fighters and ships need MROs. And it is better for South Korea to set up MRO hub in Southeast Asian countries. That might be quite an interesting point for joint the Korea-Indonesia or Korea-Southeast Asia cooperation when it comes to defense industry. And the last point, managing undesirable side effect of defense cooperation. Probably some of you know that the controversy called sibling on online. There are quite a number of people, internet users, they post some undesirable remarks and fake news to draw people's attention. It happens in defense industry area. So we have to be very careful to manage this undesirable side effect in the coming years. Okay, now move on to the maritime security and South China Sea issue. One of the questions was, what's the position of South Korea regarding the South China Sea dispute? And I would say South Korea has been quite stable in making its position clear, at least since 2016. We respect these three principles. First, South Korea supports freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea. Second, South Korea respects international law, including UNCLOS. Third, South Korea opposes any attempt of militarization in the South China Sea. It's quite clear. But this fact that South Korea respect and uphold these three principles is not quite well recognized in South Korea. And of course, South Korea has not been so active in operation side, like surveillance in the South China Sea, sending ships to South China Sea to protect freedom of navigation. But the embassies in Southeast Asia and the headquarters quite often make a comment when there's undesirable thing happens in the South China Sea. Of course, South Korea has to upgrade its actions or its commitment in the South China Sea. There's a long way to go, but I would have to make sure that South Korea's position is quite clear. And it would have been much better if South Korean government, or I say the government understand the importance of Malacca Strait and the South China Sea for South Korea's economy and peace and security, but general public does not really understand the importance of South China Sea and Malacca Strait. Taking this opportunity of the crisis in the Hormuz, I hope South Korean general public recognize, get aware the importance of Hormuz and
1 more minute.
South China Sea for the South Korea's economy. And there are few areas that South Korea and Indonesia can work together regarding the maritime security cooperation. First, engaging regional military arrangement. Indonesia leads MSP and SSSP, and I hope South Korea can make a contribution or even join to increase interoperability between Korea and Indonesia. The second point is very important, Coast Guard cooperation. At the moment, there's a cooperation going on between Korean Coast Guard and Bakamla of Indonesia regarding search and rescue capacity building and ships meetings. It's going very well. And also South Korea, through the ASEAN Korea Cooperation Fund, will launch what we call KAMSA. It's the Korea ASEAN Maritime Security Academy. And there are lots of things that the Korea and Indonesian Coast Guard can do together. And this is a very important part for the maritime security cooperation. And also maritime dialogue between Korea and Indonesia. We have Philippines and Vietnam, but we definitely need more.
Yeah. Just very quickly on this, your time is up.
Can you give me just 1 minute?
1 minute.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm very poor to manage my time. There are quite a number of bilateral dialogues and strategic dialogues between Korea and Indonesia, but I want to see the upgrade of a 2+2 meeting. Korea has got 2+2 with the US, Australia, Japan, and India, of course, different level. But between Korea and Indonesia, it's some level. I recommend it should be at least vice minister or even minister level. That will be good for Korea-Indonesia strategic cooperation in the coming years. There are a few points, but I'll just show you, and if you have any question, you can ask me a question in the Q&A session. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee Jaehyon. I think this is a very comprehensive explanation from your side about, I think there's a lot of improvement, obviously, especially with the adjustment and fine-tuning on the defense industry cooperation. But I think, as you explained to us, I think it's already beyond only CAF 21, I think, the defense cooperation. But really, I think that the point is how to do the lots of gardening. I think that's the most important thing, especially to build a deep strategic trust in order to move from what you're saying, the move from the Trinity itself, from handshaking merely to more joint actions and even later on to more advanced sharing arms. So now we move to the fourth speaker, Mr. Andrew Wegunamantong, to talk with us about the strategic and security dimensions of the Indonesia-Korea partnership. But especially, I think Andrew might highlight to us, explain to us about as the defense cooperation is going deeper, I think there's an issue about how Indonesia, seeking to still maintain, the strategic autonomy, because there will be a degree of strategic dependence involved here. Because we expect more, of course, in the partnership, because both sides need each other, obviously. So please, Andrew, 10 to 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Balina. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador Yoon, Ambassador Samnang, Pa Yusuf, Mas Vidya, Bang Gori, Pa Rizal. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for CSIS Indonesia and Korean Embassy in Jakarta for inviting all of us, sharing different topics, but I believe we will converge in some sort of similar conclusions. And I would like to begin not with the joint statement itself, but with a question that I think should frame everything we discussed this morning. When two countries deepen their security partnership, we usually ask, what do they gain? And I just want to ask a different question today, which maybe I cannot even answer myself. What does it cost them to not deepen it? And is that cost rising? So this is the question that I would like to provoke. And I will argue that for Indonesia and South Korea, the cost of not deepening security cooperation is rising faster than either country's institutional capacity can act. And I will argue that understanding why that is true requires starting not with diplomacy, but with military geography. My presentation moves in 3 parts. First, I want to ground our discussion in what the changing international order actually means in military technical terms, not as theory, but as operational reality. Second, I would like to evaluate the joint statement security architectures against that particular context. And third, I would like to make a broader argument that 2 middle power democracies working together in these conditions is actually a harder and more significant task than our usual frameworks assumes. And let me start with something that sometimes gets lost in our diplomatic language. The international order has not been changing, it has changed. The structural shifts are already operationally present. The United States, for example, withdraws from 66 international organizations, including 31 UN bodies. China's nationals have led the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs since 2007. WICO, a Chinese-led AI governance body modeled on the WHO, was formally proposed in July 2025. And in April 2026, Indonesia's Karimun oil terminal was listed in the EU's 20th Russia sanctions package as shadow fleet infrastructure. The first time the European Union has ever included a non-Russian port in its Russia sanctions framework. So this is not a seminar. Today is not a seminar about the future. The environment that both Indonesia and Korea must navigate is actually the one we already live in. Which bring me to the map. Where do Korea and Indonesia actually sit within this architecture? From the map, we know that South Korea sits inside China's inner area, anti-access area denial ring, A2AD ring. Camp Humphreys, Asan Air Base, Kadena, Yokosuka, all within the F-21D range of approximately 1,500 kilometers. Seoul also experienced another A2AD layer from the North Korean ballistic missile programs. And the US extended deterrence guarantee that has underpinned Korean security for 70 years is now undergoing credibility stress. And Indonesia's position is different but equally exposed. The DF-26 outer ring covers most of the Indonesian archipelago, including Java, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Sumatra, and approaches to Papua. More importantly, Indonesia's choke points, including Malacca Straits, Lombok, Sunda, Ombay Wetar, and Makassar, are the decisive terrain of every blockade, counter-blockade, and logistical competition scenario in Indo-Pacific. And here is the critical point. Indonesia is already inside multiple kill chains without being in any formal alliance. P-8A patrols, for example, from Singapore, which is US-based, US-backed, is one of the examples. PLA Navy UAVs approaching the northern EEZ. We just came back from Makassar. Some of the local fishermen reported that they found drones in Makassar Strait and suspected they are coming from China. Foreign submarines transiting Indonesian straits undetected, and Karimun listing was a peacetime preview of what infrastructure instrumentalization looks like under real pressures. So what does this mean for our bilateral relationships? I think the most honest framing is this. Korea and Indonesia share strategic condition, denial vulnerability, economic dependency on China, and middle power identity. But we face the condition from a very different positions. Korea must choose more explicitly, given the fact that Korea is US ally. It carries an existential North Korean nuclear threat, a mutual defense obligation to the United States, and has already experienced Chinese economic coercion through the THAAD retaliation in 2017, confirmed losses of over $7 billion. Indonesia, by contrast, is constitutionally constrained from making formal alliance. Bebas aktif, which Mbak Lina mentioned earlier, our free and active foreign policy principles is not only just a doctrine, it is a political reality. And Indonesia's choke point geography makes it a strategic pivot for all major powers simultaneously, not just one. And these differences matter for us. But the convergence zone, shared middle power identity, shared denial vulnerability, and shared economic security dilemma is precisely where the cooperation rationale is the strongest. Now, let me turn to evaluation. Indonesia has been running under Prabowo, a remarkable 18 months of diplomatic sprint, deepening security partnerships simultaneously with the United States, China, Australia, Russia, and Japan. And where does Korea fit in that portfolio? My argument is that Korea occupies a structurally unique position. It is the only Indonesian partner that combines top-tier defense industrial access with the lowest alignment cost of any relationship in Indonesia's portfolio. The US partnership, for example, carries CATSA exposure and the overflight controversy, which we already experiencing now. The Russia partnership carries EU sanction risk, now concretely demonstrated at Karimun case, and China partnership carries the South China Sea contradictions. The Japan partnerships carries historical memory, and Tokyo is now even more deeply integrated within the US posture. Korea, in this matter, carries relatively almost none of these costs for Indonesia. Seoul is non-nuclear, it has no territorial disputes with Jakarta, its defense industrial relationship with Indonesia is already established and politically relatively uncontroversial. And critically, no major power objects Indonesia to have Korean fighters. Now, let me move to the joint statement itself. The security architecture agreed on April is, I think, architecturally right. But I want to be precise about where the value lies and where the risks are. First, the strategic maritime dialogue is the most strategically valuable mechanism, not because what it is today, but because of what it could become. The Vice Foreign Minister, as co-chair, signals that this is foreign policy, not fisheries management from the Indonesian side. If the SMD develops into a genuine channel for maritime domain awareness and ISR coordination, surveillance, and reconnaissance between these two denial vulnerable middle powers, it gives Indonesia sovereign strategic awareness without alliance cost, and that is rare. The 2+2 ministerial upgrade matters because it can institutionalize Kemlu Kemhan from the Indonesian side coordination that the previous episode of Indonesia's security cooperation with a certain great power proof is currently missing. An annual ministerial calendar is itself a forcing function in this matter. The counterterrorism MOU has the highest immediate operational value, no alignment costs, genuine shared interest, and Indonesia's soft approach of the radicalization model is globally exportable. And the critical gap is actually technology cooperation that has no dedicated pillar in the special comprehensive and strategic dialogue. The most strategically valuable bilateral activity, the IF-21 program, is institutionally invisible at the apex dialogue level, and this needs to change. Which brings us to the most interesting case. The KF-21 story is the most honest mirror of the how the partnership has become so far. A 10-year joint development program that survived payment suspension from 2019 to 2022, a proposal to cut Indonesia's contribution to 1/3, a deal finalized in June 2025 in which Korea transfers a prototype with limited operational value, but not the sensitive technology Indonesia actually needs, and the North Korea technology leak anxiety that remains unsolved. There were some major controversies involving Indonesia's engineers accused of improperly handling or attempting to remove KF-21 technical data, but prosecutors in Korea later did not pursue full criminal prosecution, although concerns in South Korea clearly persisted. So I still find some op-ed, for example, in South Korea saying the anxiety over whether this event is actually linked towards the fact that Foreign Minister Sugiono has just visited North Korea, and which is no evidence that can publicly prove transfer to Pyongyang. And there are three lessons of this KF-21 example. First, I have to be careful here. The payment history teaches us that financial and technology dimensions of co-production partnership cannot be decoupled. When technology transfer expectations are left ambiguous at the outset, financial contributions become the lever for renegotiation. And the fix is actually institutional. clearer upfront agreements, not better payment discipline after the fact. Second, the technology transfer is the real price, not the platform. Indonesia wants to build capability, and Korea wants to build a customer. Those interests are not identical. And third, North Korea complications is a permanent structural constraint. That unaddressed anxiety is a trust deficit in the CSP elevation that already has been papered over, but not actually resolved. So, back to Malina's question. How does Indonesia reconcile deeper defense industrial cooperation with its non-alignment tradition of bebas aktif, free and active foreign policy? My answer is that we need to distinguish two dimensions of bebas aktif. The first, avoiding formal alliance commitments. It can actually remain intact. The current framework between Indonesia and Korea creates no mutual defense obligation. Korea is not a great power, and this is not AUKUS. And second dimension is the problem actually. Avoiding the alignment implications of military technical interdependence. Co-production embeds Indonesia in a partner's technology ecosystem in the ways Bung Hatta never anticipated before. Every IF-21 maintenance cycle, every software update, every spare parts is a moment of structural dependency. And the reconciliation is this. If the IF-21 program delivers genuine technology transfer to PT Dirgantara Indonesia, design capability, maintenance autonomy, and export rights, then it can deepen Indonesia's autonomy, not dependency. So the military technical foundations is what gives bebas aktif, free and active foreign policy operational content. Without it, the principle is only a declaration without instrument. And this brings me to my third movement and the argument I most want to leave with you. Standard middle power theory tells us that middle powers cooperate more easily because they have to. They are more transparent, more predictable, more rule-bound. And this is true normatively. It is not automatically true operationally in defense industrial cooperation. Two democracies cooperating on security face four specific predictable frictions. Parliamentary budget cycles interrupt multi-year programs. The KF-21 payment, for example, the suspensions coincide precisely with Indonesian fiscal constraints years and government transition. Indonesia-Korea SIPA, for example, its ratification was delayed for nearly 2 years over trade balance and automotive concerns, with Indonesia withholding submission entirely until Hyundai and POSCO signed investment MOUs. And electoral cycles create leadership discontinuity. The relationship advanced under President Moon, stalled arguably under President Yoon, and now reaccelerated under President Lee. Domestic coalition create veto players, and defense industry lobby renegotiated KF-21 terms mid-program on both sides. The democratic transparency principle conflicts with the secrecy that defense cooperation requires. The KF-21 Lee scandal and the North Korea anxiety are both direct expression of this. And these are not accident or failures of will. They are structural features of democratic governance applied to security cooperation. So,
Andrew, sorry, your time is just, I give you 1 more minute.
okay, this is actually the last slide. So what does success look like? 6 concrete indicators. Does the IF-21 produce the genuine PT Dirgantara Indonesia design capability, not just assembly? That is the first indicator. Second, does the SMD, the Maritime Dialogue, develop actual intelligence sharing on trade transit activity? Does 2+2 force real Kemlu-Kemhan interagency preparation? Does Indonesia maintain KF-21 payment discipline under the SCSP? Do Indonesia and Korea develop a frank bilateral channel for managing the North Korea tension rather than allowing it to remain an unaddressed trust deficit? And does this model become replicable across Korea-ASEAN relations more broadly? So, dealing with this kind of tensions would be the proof that two democracies, two middle power can actually work together in uncertain times in security cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And I think you have explained to us about really the cost of not deepening the strategic relations. which is getting higher in the changing international order. And I think you have explained to us, I think very comprehensively about actually the cooperation is really, really the best among the others because, as you mentioned, the alignment cost is actually very low, but the cooperation with Korea is actually reached to the top tier cooperation, which is very, very important. And I think the last point about the cooperation, not only the middle power cooperation, but the two democracies cooperation, I think that's something that really, really very good investment to make. So now we have quite ample time, around 50 minutes for discussions, questions and answers from the audience. So now I open the first term. If there's any would like to make comment, I see one hand there, maybe 3 questions or even 4 questions if there's any. I see 2 hands. Anyone else? One more, if there's any. Okay, I'll start with 2 first. Okay, please identify yourself and also just straightforward with your questions or comments, please.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Lina, for the opportunity. My name is Omar Farizi Wongo. I'm from Lab 45. I would like to ask to Dr. Lee and Mas Andrew regarding how the future of Indonesia and Korea defense industry partnership itself. Like from the presentation, Dr. Lee also stressed how we move forward. So the question from my question is how we move forward, Dr. Lee. There are several indicators that already been stated by Mas Andrew. So maybe I want to know your perspective. Is it the mechanism that we do the joint production is the mishap? So the next term we can make the joint venture doing in defense industry itself, like. And also I want to ask regarding the trends of Indonesia procurement, especially in the fighter jet and submarine. Do you see it as a constraint for the joint action in the future of the Indonesia and Korea? I think that's all, Mbak Lina.
Thank you so much. The second hand over there.
Thank you, Mbak Lina, for the opportunity. I am Angela Keisha from Semar Sentinel. My question would be specifically for Dr. Parlindungan Purba. We've discussed that towards a green industry has been a long-standing agenda for Indonesia. We've heard that one of the strategic opportunity between the two countries, namely to integrate EV supply chain, green transition, and smart manufacturing at the same time. However, I personally believe that Indonesia's main challenge still lies in the foundation or the basics, for example, like human resources, the education, capacity building, and ultimately financing challenges as it requires a lot of finance, for example, to do R&Ds and later to distribute it in society as well. Not to mention the development inequality across regions in Indonesia that has yet to be addressed in the very first place. So my first question, what does it take for Indonesia to endure and be sustained in the green industry to implement EV and smart manufacturing? Secondly, where does the cooperation with South Korea sit in this problem? Thank you.
Thank you so much. One more question, if there's any? No more? Okay. Oh, sorry, wait, one more. Sorry. Please, Papa. Please identify yourself.
Thank you, Producer. To Dr. Ko, thank you for your insightful presentation. My name is Muhammad Firdaus. I am from Ministry of Investment and Industry. However, I am currently serving as Director of Electronic Service System and Infrastructure. I was particularly interested by your point that downstreaming is ultimately about capability accumulation and not merely export substitution, as well as your emphasis on moving toward shared industrial capability. In many cases, however, countries still face challenges in ensuring that participation in global supply chains leads to technology internalization and real capability upgrading rather than a new form of dependency. My question is, based on Korea experience, where are the most critical mechanisms or policy instruments that can ensure this transition from participation to true capability context, especially into this context where digital capability round, and actually is very interesting to know more about this. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Bapak. So I think we have questions for all speakers. I will start with Andrew and Dr. Lee first about how do we move forward, especially, and perhaps you can comment also about the trend of Indonesia's defense procurement recently. Please.
Thank you so much for your question, and I expect Andrew can answer more specific areas of cooperation, but I would like to let it kind of broad here. In my presentation, I mentioned that the Korea-Indonesia defense cooperation is between equal partners, between middle powers. Let me just a little bit more specific to that. If you look at Korea-US defense industry cooperation, or the defense cooperation, we are bound by a military alliance treaty between US and South Korea. So US and South Korea has got their own obligation toward these partners. Sometimes if we lose, we have to cooperate. Sometimes if we gain more, we have to cooperate. Because it's actually written there in the alliance treaty. But Korea-Indonesia cooperation is a bit different. Actually, it's quite different between equal partners. And if you look at past the history of Korea-Indonesia security and defense cooperation, it depends on how you look at it. But some people would say that its history is not that long. It's not that deep, the strategic trust between the two countries. If I am in the foreign, like a diplomatic venue, I would say that how the bilateral partnership is to the top level, and we have such a strong strategic partnership, I would be rather straightforward. It is in the process of being built. South Korea's defense industry cooperation with Southeast Asian countries, including Indonesia, first of all, started out of commercial interest. And still, we have lots of commercial interest in building partnership with Southeast Asian countries, including Indonesia. That's a fact. That's the reality. And we have to start from there. What we have to think from now on is how to turn this commercial partnership into more strategic cooperation in the coming years. Then Mantong, Andrew, pointed out a lot of domestic challenges in security, defense, and defense industry cooperation. Of course, there are a lot of challenges we are facing at the moment and in the coming years, including the thing that I mentioned in my presentation, the things happening, the fake news thing. The point is, are we pointing out, are we heading for the same direction or goal? I would like to mention one more point. The reason why we are talking so much about middle power cooperation at the moment is that after long years of US-China strategic competition, which brought about a lot of strategic uncertainty to the small and medium countries in the region, now we are seeing big powers, unilateral behavior, invading other countries, causing tensions and blah, blah. So in facing this kind of big power strategic competition and the big powers unilateral behavior, what's the future of small and medium powers in the region. If we don't put our hands together to navigate in this turbulent time, then our future is not guaranteed. That's really I want to say. And so for now, we have a little bit of differences among ourselves. We have to put them under the carpet first, and then have to find a way to cooperate. I'm not saying that the middle power cooperation is to crush or demonize the big powers. What I'm saying is that we have to increase our leverage against the big powers to protect our self-interest and to protect our autonomy. So if we agree on that point, then under that overarching umbrella, we can move our defense industry cooperation, defense cooperation, and strategic cooperation. That's what really I want to say. Thank you.
The question is quite hard because, my presentation was really about how the rising anti-access area denial, as well as scouting and counter-scouting competition, is so intensive in the Indo-Pacific region, to the extent that for countries like Indonesia, any choices of the hardware we sort of imported from our external partners can create the consequences of alignment. So this is not a position whether we claim that we are bebas aktif, free and active foreign policy, but the story might be different if, let's say, if we choose to open Kertajati for Hercules maintenance, because these maintenance issues can create an alignment cost, especially in wartime conditions. So in this kind of era, how Indonesia and Korea can move together? The joint statement specifically said that beside KFX, other defense industry cooperation projects, including collaboration on trainer aircrafts, anti-tank guide missile systems, as well as ammunitions, are already included in the discussions. But seen from the Indonesia side, if we look into the map, what is actually missing, and this is why the maritime domain awareness probably should be elevated to one of the priority beside of the defense cooperation. What Indonesia can actually still compete is because like this. Because everyone is trying to become a hiders, at the same time become a finders, people now investing in satellite, in electronic warfare, in cyber warfare. So let's say if you shoot the satellite, then the next option is actually radar, the electromagnetic options. If we shoot them both, now the competition is actually moving towards a seabed, undersea cable, and so on and so forth. And this is actually the area where still underexploited. And I hope that countries like Korea and Indonesia can actually develop a cooperation to move the attention away to this kind of particular issues, which actually brings me to a little bit suggestions to Dr. Lee here. We should not only talking about South China Sea, we should talk about Makassar Strait. Let's say if we want to increase middle power collaboration, your trade with Australia could also be significant. And 40% after Hormuz crisis, traffic of LNG already passing through Makassar Straits. And Makassar Straits for Indonesia is actually a weakest link because we don't have balance of power there. We don't have our enough capacity for surveillance and reconnaissance. And recent incidents actually prove that this can be another battle. So let's say if we move the conversation away from only aircraft, just notice that we also have the Nagapasa projects between Indonesia and Korea. And these submarine projects is actually critical for countries like Indonesia only if these projects is accompanied by another kind of maritime domain awareness dialogues. Indonesia still need a capacity of early warning and control aircraft, for example, we still need a capacity of maritime patrol aircraft. We need our capacity on drone, satellites, radar, and coastal surveillance, which I believe Korea can actually be few good options for Indonesia, given the fact that Korea is leading in terms of this kind of technology. So let's broaden our conversation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to welcome my senior, Pak Gandhi, His Excellency Ambassador of Indonesia, previous at Korea, and Mr. Ten, Ambassador of Cambodia, and our friend Korcham. Thank you very much. I would like to say that talking about Indonesia, not only talking about Java or Jakarta. So we have to say that Indonesia is a portfolio of markets, not a single uniform market. There are many opportunities there. Your question is about how to make it sustainable. Number one. And number two is how it will be the renewable energy. I think that is the two things, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, regarding that, in Indonesia, for the electricity, we have RUPTL. RUPTL is National Planning of Supply Energy. It is made by the government and done by the IPP, and the buyer is for the special zone by the private sectors, but usually it is bought by the PLN. And it is over all the numbers, over than 30% are renewable energy. So the market is there. And fortunately, we are doing now to make the renewable energy bill. It was happened from 10 years ago when I was the member of Senator of Indonesia. We proposed the bill of renewable energy, and hopefully this year will be soon. Soon will be can be pushed lah. Hopefully, so we can see in the RUPTL how about the geothermal, wind power, PV solar, and tide, and also the all kinds of wind maybe. So talking about that, the government of Indonesia now is on the track going to do that business. So we have to prepare, and our friends from Korea also have known that. And the second, regarding the EV car, we are happy also, some companies here like Hyundai and some coming to that. But we have also the national strategy for hydrogen. So talking about Indonesia, we are far in front to make all the strategic energy in the future. Why? Because Indonesia has 20,000 islands. For example, not only in Sumatra, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Java, and Papua, there are all small islands that needs to be the desalination. They have to change it into PV solar. Now the government is planning to make 100 gigawatt for PV solar, and it is open for the Korean, and also not for Korean, but also for the foreigners to come to Indonesia. So what I can say that we guarantee that the opportunities in Indonesia is still open for renewable energy and for sustainable energy. For example, also, if we talk about the product of Indonesia now, they need to prove that they are organic. For example, for the agriculture products. Agriculture products, if you want to export, we have to make must be have a symbol of organic fertilizer, and then renewable energy. It will be soon, not the market just for the international market, but for local market. You can see, for example, Medan, not Sumatra Island, it is about 10 provinces. The people is there about 50 million. So if we go also to the Java people, so the market is there. Indonesia is still open for the good opportunity for agriculture. And also I'm thinking how we can make for Indonesia, if the Korean come here, they usually bring some ginseng, that is the national. So we have to make also from Indonesia, what product that we can make it is as a, as a souvenirs, national souvenirs. Okay, we cannot say one, but we can make from each provinces. It means that we need also the technology from Korea. I know some our friend from Korea. They also give some ODA. A few years ago, they make it so for air purifier. They help the people of Indonesia, and then needles. I think this will be a good opportunity in the future. So, relation between Indonesia and Korea has been coming, but still on the organization to organization. We have to push people to people. So talking about all opportunities from energy, water, food, I think it is open for not only for Indonesian people, but for our Korean people in a partnership way. Thank you very much.
Okay, those two countries' industrial cooperation, we already look into the nickel EV value chain, but we needed to look at some other industry sectors because other sectors such as pharmaceutical and bio, it has a further growth opportunity, not domestic market and the overseas. So already some Korean pharmaceutical companies, they built in, they constructed the plants, the produce manufacturing plants, and then R&D center here. And also I mentioned the shipbuilding because the shipbuilding has a great impact on forward and backward industrial impact, and that it has a much higher capability to hire some more and more employees. And that, you know, when we say we call it shipbuilding, it's not manufacturing because every ship has a different design, different order. So it does not like the manufactured from the factories. That's why it needs large, high-skilled laborers. So already Korea establishes some overseas and marine employee training centers here. So we needed to look into some other sectors for further cooperation, not only keep to stick it to the nickel lines. So that's why we can look into the further cooperation in other sectors, then we can find the better chances, and then we can make those kind of special strategic cooperation up to the implementation level further. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, sorry?
Yeah. So regarding the other things, so regarding the financing and other R&D issues, I emphasize many times is accumulation capability, which means it needs a very long-term tolerance capital injection. Is you know the Tanantara, those kind of government-initiated capital should play significant role support long-term R&D. It doesn't take just 1 or 2 years. We cannot get a substantial outcome at all. It takes at least 10 years to 20 years. Who can provide those kind of long-term capital injection rate for that fruitful outcome? The private company cannot do that. So that's why the Danantara or policy support, they give us some more incentive and the support. Actually, in Korea also, those kind of industry initiated by the industrial policy in 1960s, 70s, and 80s. And that they give a strong incentive to private sector to establish R&D center, then the government to give a lot of tax benefit and support and then other things. So those kind of two engines to boost up that sector's development further substantial. So I think that we already played, as a Korea already played this kind of a game, get through those kind of oil crises and global geopolitical risks. So we can share this kind of experience and then we can share the better industrial policy design to overcome this kind of very volatile the geopolitical risk to get through it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ko. Now we still have some time. I see one hand there for the second round, 2 hands, 3 hands, I think. Okay. One more if there's any. Last chance. Okay. Okay, maybe start from the front first, please. Please identify yourself also and directly pose your question. Thank you.
My name is Lee Kang-hyun, as a chairman of Chamber of Commerce Korea. Then I'd like to ask Mr. Purba or the Andrew. Actually, many large Korean companies have already made significant investment in Indonesia. But however, there is the growing concern that the government focus heavily on attracting new investors rather than solving the challenges faced by the existing ones. To foster long-term commitment, what specific policies or plan does the government have to take better care of the existing investor? It's a quite significant problem. Even the Hyundai Motors and the Lotte Chemicals, POSCO, the already big investment, but it already happened always, the big problem. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The one in the middle? Yeah, please.
Check.
Just use you have the microphone on your table, yeah.
Is it me? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So I'm really curious about strategic decoupling, since Andrew mentioned about how important is it for Indonesia and South Korea to discuss some shared security issues. I think South Korea is increasingly integrated into the Western security architecture, especially cooperating with AUKUS or NATO, while Indonesia maintains its bebas active and free and active foreign policy. So my question is, how will the new strategic dialogue mechanism handle potential conflicts in the South China Sea or the Korean Peninsula, for example, if South Korea is pressured to join US-led sanction or operations that Indonesia opposes? And I do actually have a second question regarding the third country exports right. This is about the sovereignty clause. So Indonesia aims to become a regional defense hub, and this requires the right to export Korean origin hardware, like for example CN-235 and modified K2 tanks or submarines, to other ASEAN or African nations. And South Korea's strict export control often clashes with Prabowo defense global supply chain vision, where Indonesia acts as a manufacturing base for the global South. So I have a question regarding this. So under the new special comprehensive strategic partnership, so has Seoul actually eased its end-user certificate restriction to allow Indonesia to export jointly produced hardware without a case-by-case veto from South Korean government? Sorry, that's a bit technical.
May I have your name and affiliation, please?
Oh, yeah. My name is Aisha. I'm from a think tank called Indo-Pacific Strategic Intelligence, based in Jakarta.
Thank you so much, Aisha. The third one, at the back, sorry. Yeah. Please, okay. Identify yourself and pose your questions, comment, please.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elvira Nuraini from Korea-Indonesia Connection, University of Indonesia. I have two questions here. First one for Dr. Ko. My question is, in the EV battery value chain, higher value activities remain concentrated in technology and advanced manufacturing. And in your view, what conditions are necessary for Indonesia to move from downstream processing to greater value chain upgrading within the Korea-Indonesia supply chain cooperation? And for Mr. Didit, my question is, Indonesia's downstreaming policy has created economic momentum but also raises concerns around environmental costs. And from a business perspective, how important are the sustainability standards and ESG consideration now in shaping Korea-Indonesia battery supply chain partnerships? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Purba has two questions here for you. Maybe I'll start with you first, please.
Thank you, my dear friend Lee from Korea. we understood that the government now is very eager to not just to ask the new investors, but to make sure that what happened now is running very well. And we can see from the strategic of our cabinet, even Mr. Rosan, last time he was a Chamber of Commerce, I think your friend. And last time he is experienced in the ambassador of Indonesia in America. And now he was also Minister of Investment. At the same time, he is also in Danantara, Sovereignty Wealth Fund, I think the biggest. So what I can see, we understand that. And even he is very eager to meet all the players, the big company. And it was happened about 2 weeks ago. There is the Chamber of Commerce and Excellency Mr. Yoon was there also, meet with him, and Pak Sulis also. So I think we can solve the problem from each competencies, what I mean from each countries. So I am eager also, we talk about if there is a problem about that, we can talk to him directly. Pak Sulis, I think he's very good on that. We can support on that way because we know Indonesia has many provinces, many kabupaten and many cities. Sometimes the regulation each other is not completing, but sometimes they want to complement, but in reality is sometimes not fit to each other. So that's why I say not just to look Indonesia just in Java Island, please also look for other island in Indonesia, from Papua, from Sumatra and others. And the government now is very open to see any input from the private sectors. The private sectors, we understand how the situation. And very important is people to people. I think your partner, I think a big Hyundai, I think we better also they can meet the local partner and they will support to the what happened in the business situation. Can be done because I see Korcham is also very active. And the second about the question, my name is Purba. I'm not supposed to be here, but he asked me to be there. So talking about this, sustainability is very important, and ESG, environmental social governance. Frankly speaking, the Korean business players are very eager to take partner with Indonesian, must be based on ESG. And ESG is very important, not just ISO, just maybe standard international. They come to the more on sustainability. So in my mind, talking about ESG is talking about sustainable. In Indonesia, I see some expo regarding ESG. It was happened 6 months ago. So all the big company must propose what has done with their ESG. So it is good. It is coming. Although just in the big companies yet. Now all the medium and small also, we ask them to learn about ESG because ESG not just talking as profit, it is talking about sustainable. I think that is the point that I can say. We are going to the future together based on ESG. And all the businessmen now coming to that. So not just environmental, but how is the accounting, human resource, and also the energy. Thank you.
So now, Dr. Ko, if you can respond to the question about how to move up to the supply chain.
Yeah. There is two types of innovation we talk. One innovation is disruptive innovation. It's like the suddenly bang of iPhone. But the other innovation, we say incremental or sustainable innovation in processing or little step-by-step upgrade. I think when we approach to manufacturing upgrade, we don't aim so high to the disruptive innovation only. we can think about the step-by-step process upgrading. So how to increase the participation in upper value chain of local manufacturers, because we need to align those, the big corporation and the other suppliers. So sometimes, many of the Korean cases, the Korean company also supported their suppliers to develop R&D. So they can share those kind of outcomes of upgrading. So how the government aligned their policy direction with the implementation level incentive. That's one of the way, and then also try to look into not only internal market, it's a regional market. That's kind of a scale of economy reach it, then there has a strong incentive of private sector to invest more and more. So those kind of two ways we need to think we can consider at this moment.
Thank you. Now move to Andrew. And I think Dr. Lee can also comment, I think, on the questions about the decoupling and the sovereignty clause. Please, Andrew.
I would like to begin to answer Aisha's question first, and probably later move towards the second question from Pak Lee about the sort of tendency towards favoritizing the new investment over the late investment. One thing that I noticed that Indonesia sees different defense industrialization as a part of our strategic autonomy plan, and it goes beyond weapons procurement, and cooperation with South Korea offers major opportunities because Korea, I think, relatively is more willing than many advanced defense producers to provide co-production, localization, maintenance, and partial technology transfers. But at the same time, we also have to remember that defense cooperation in this matter is not only about joint production. It can also touch upon issues like, for example, assembly, maintenance, repair, and overhauling, which is probably something that Hercules is seeking in Kertajati now, and component manufacturing and possible export of Korean origin system, such as aircraft, naval platforms, and since I already mentioned about something that is closely more related with our ISR capability in the near future, maybe drones, missiles, and other ISR technologies. And we also have to remember that Indonesia's geography also increased the strategic value in the era of anti-access area denial competition and Indo-Pacific instability. Our archipelago could function as distributed logistics, sustainment, and production node outside immediate frontline areas. For Korea, Indonesia provides access to ASEAN markets, strategic depth, and diversification of industrial and supply chain risk. But from our side, from the Indonesian side, the partnership also faces major complications. First, South Korea remains constrained by US export controls, alliance obligation, and the need to protect sensitive technologies, and it means that Indonesia is unlikely to gain full access to the core systems such as advanced AESA radar source, electronic warfare suits, and for example, propulsion technology. And many Korean systems still also contain US origin components that restrict Indonesia freedom to modify or even re-export them independently. This seems very technical, but at the same time, it means that these technicalities is actually the issues where Indonesia and Korea is facing now. It's not like we are dealing with China and US because of we fear something, then we accept something. Because they are big powers, then the relationship follow the logic of power relations. No, probably some of you in this room is already irritated by how much technical our conversation is already about, which is linked to the second questions. Yes, when two middle powers cooperate with each other, the issue is very technical. Because this technicality is something that could generate the opportunities of cooperation. We don't talk about power. We talk about institutions. We talk about what actually tangible area of cooperation. We don't talk about weapons. We talk about overhaul, about joint production, about contracts, about payment system and so on and so forth. And I think this is the biggest obstacle for Indonesia-Korea relations, if you're not diligent enough to digest whatever already listed in the joint statement into an actual institutional operationalization, you will miss the train. So I think this is the case of KFX. This is the case of we are trying to attract investment from Hyundai, but when it comes to implementations, the devil lies in the details. How much in Indonesia we can actually prepare our interagency coordination to pursue this kind of cooperation? How diligent our business players in following up all the agreements into actual implementation? So from the Indonesian side, if you are still lazy to deal with the technical issues, then you will miss the train. Because various opportunities from defense sector, from investment sectors, would probably more related to technical issues. And technical issues is not a small issue in the era of great power competitions. It can eventually engender consequences for the changing alignment and hence the changing structural position in the region itself. Probably Dr. Lee and Pak Ginting can add.
Just repeat what Andrew has just said. Basically, cooperation between Korea and Indonesia, cooperation among middle powers could be noisy. We have to sort out a lot of things, a lot of differences we have accumulated in the past. So the cooperation can be noisy. To advance this middle power cooperation, we shouldn't be afraid of being noisy. For example, if our cooperation with the US, things are given. So there's already procedures and institutions, and we just follow the steps. So still we have noise in our cooperation with the US. But this is sort of a new type of relations, middle power cooperation. Of course, we will have a lot of more noise than our traditional partnership. So we have to bear that in mind first. And the second, Korea's relation with the United States, Korea's relation with the US. Someone mentioned that South Korea is already in the Western fold. Yes, that's true. We built our cooperation a lot with the Western powers, notably the United States. We are military allies, and we are recently developing cooperation partnership called NATO IP4 in the Pacific 4 countries like Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. We have a lot of connections and network with so-called Western countries. But at the same time, if you just look at the Korea's relation with the US and China, then we are still pretty much dependent on our economy with China. And to manage South Korean Korean Peninsula security situation, we have to depend a lot on the US. But nevertheless, we survived and we managed these two partnerships. When I come to Southeast Asia, my Southeast Asian friends often talk about diversification, hedging strategy. Even if we have our military alliance partnership with United States, we have our own hedging strategy between these two big powers. And if you look at the past 10 years, South Korea's strategy toward Southeast Asia, we have been very sincere to diversify our foreign policy and strategic network. For example, Moon Jae-in administration, we had New Southern Policy, which drew a lot of Southeast Asian attention. And after Moon Jae-in, we had quite different president, Yoon Suk-yeol. For example, when it comes to our relation with the United States, Korean Peninsula issues, these two presidents have been quite different, opposite direction. But when it comes to our cooperation with Southeast Asia, the previous president announced the Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative. It continued. And now, back to Democratic Party regime, and we have CSP vision. President Lee Jae-myung announced the CSP vision. In all these three different administrations, we kept our ASEAN Southeast Asia strategy. And South Korea, given the circumstance, the strategic circumstance that surrounding South Korea, we have to anyhow diversify our foreign policy and strategic reach. Otherwise, South Korea will be in deep trouble. So even if South Korea has been quite close to the Western powers, my point is that South Korea is doing its own hedging, its own diversification, and Southeast Asia is so important partner for South Korea. Yeah, let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Actually, this kind of two superpowers squeeze the Korea economically too. But so before, petrochemical and all other industries, the Korean companies lost their market share in global, and they lost their competitive advantage in global market. But nowadays we rebound, so because we already got a backlash from China and from United States. So yeah, it's a middle power, but in the other way is we are squeezed by two powers. But nowadays we rebound. How we did? Because we get lesson how to get through those kinds of pressures. So turn to another market, turn to another partnership, and turn to the more deeply R&D investment. Yeah, that's the only way we can survive. So that's so this kind of a geopolitical shock is we regard it as a crisis. Yes, it is a super risk. But in the other side, we can leverage this kind of a geopolitical risk, turn to the trigger and then booster for the cooperation. So that's why we always talking about the middle power cooperation, middle power partnership is that. So we need to find out, we need to make some space for us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ko. There is actually one last question from the online participant from Sun Yong-yang from the Korean mission. Maybe this question is directed to Andrew because it's related to your earlier presentation about the enhancement of the implementation here. The strategic partnership is being enhanced here. But in terms of the implementation, I think, how can this be improved in the ASEAN context through ADMM Plus, for example? What can Indonesia do more in this regard about the strategic partnership? Please.
Thank you very much for the question. In my presentation, I already mentioned that if we can actually work on this together, it could be a model of how countries like Indonesia and Korea can work to another ASEAN counterparts. And in the special, in the joint statement document, they already have at least two areas that could be not only located within the framework of Indonesia-Korea relationships. The talk on maritime domain awareness could be good if we can also extend that to the level of ASEAN. But another problem for ASEAN is actually where we are going to look at that particular initiatives. ASEAN is kind of fragmented in terms of locating where actually is the right forum for maritime cooperation. Yes, the recent summit said that the Coast Guard cooperation could be one of the dialogue partners, but I think given the fact that the range of maritime domain awareness that should be covered is not going to be enough if we only focus on, for example, in Bakamla. That's one. Second is actually on counterterrorism. This is going to be a straightforward and easy lowest common denominator. Indonesia got the track records. Indonesia is, for example, in a need because it's usually, the usual support is usually coming from the United States through USAID in funding ASEAN in moving forward with counter-radicalization and violent extremism. if Korea is interested in this, Korea can partner with other ASEAN dialogue partners to move the agenda forward. Not only to focus on terrorism per se, but another kind of violent extremism, which can involve various forms of radical ideology and so on and so forth, but also on the particular dimension of radicalization, such as cyber-allowed radicalization and financing. And I think these are the areas of cooperation where Korea can invest and move forward from the joint statement that already has been signed between Prabowo and President Lee. And these are only the example where a clear and more robust bilateral framework can give positive externalities towards ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So I think we have come to the end of the panel this morning. I think we have discussed a lot of important issues today on how we can move forward after the platform has been actually established with a special comprehensive strategic partnership. And I think there are a lot of key takeaways. I cannot summarize all. I think everyone here already enjoyed the discussion and have their own notes. But basically, from me, I think there are three specific key takeaways that we can highlight. The first is that the elevation of the partnership into the spatial comprehensive strategic partnership between Indonesia and Korea happens at a very crucial momentum, which is a global crisis that we are facing. This reflects an urgent need from both sides to deepen the cooperation, to navigate the impact of the geopolitical rivalry, or the shocks in many aspects. And as Dr. Ko rightly mentioned, that actually both countries and many countries actually squeezed by these great powers. So there's an urgent need to deepen the cooperation, really. Second, I think from the explanation, from the elaboration, from the distinguished speakers, I think we learned that there is a lot of opportunities and lessons learned from our long-term partnership. And especially from Korea, I think we learned on how Korea really built its critical industries for a long term. But at the same time, I think now Korea is really aiming for deepening the so-called middle power cooperation. And at the same time, Indonesia is also seeking to move from simply a resource country into building its own industries, particularly to create resilience and to transform itself. So this spatial comprehensive strategic partnerships really provides the very strategic platform to deepen the cooperation for mutual benefits. And I think we have learned today really a lot of areas of cooperations in economic and trade, in energy sector, and in digital connectivity as well, and very most important, which is the defense cooperation. And the third, I think we have elaborated really on how we should move forward with the implementation. I think that's really the gist of it, while after shaking so many hands, multiple times, I think really to overcome the gap, on the technical issues, that we have between us. But the main point is really how to overcome the mistrust between the two sides. And this will require the political will and also the policy coherence in each country to boost the speedy process of the implementation. I think with that note, please join me to give a round of applause to all the distinguished speakers this morning. And we thank you for all your participation today, to be here with us, and we would like to welcome you for other event of CSIS. Thank you so much.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded our event today. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the speakers, moderator, ambassadors, and diplomatic representatives present in the room. To formally end the event, we formally invite those of you in the auditorium for lunch, which is provided at the pre-function hall just outside of the auditorium. And for those present online, we look forward to welcoming you at future events. Thank you and have a good day.